Test, test, test. Sorry, there was something wrong with the microphone. We have, for the past several months as an island, and rightfully so, been worried about losing more than $100 million in federal funds, ARPA funds, because of this whole thing between the governor and the attorney general and um, the legislature not wanting to step in to resolve the issue between the governor and the attorney general so that we don't waste more than $100 million that's already been obligated toward hospital development at Fidian, right? We've been fixated on that $100-some million. I think we tend to forget that there's other federal funds. And thanks to a story by Joe Taitsino II in the Pacific Daily News that published today, and thanks to Senator Shelley Calvo, who conducted an oversight hearing of DISID, specifically the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, we now know that over the past 4 years, DISID has returned more than almost $6 million in federal funds, quite a kitty of federal funds that are meant for some of the most vulnerable Guamanians. This is money that is meant to provide a level of self-determination for people in our community, people in our families, children or relatives of our friends who have some type of a disability that prevents them from living that autonomous life that the rest of us get to live without assistive technology, without opportunities in the workforce, without special considerations for how this society works. And to know from this oversight hearing that almost $6 million has been returned, it's a sad thing. And according to this, and so what I wanted to do was to bring you, after reading the story, I thought, why don't we just bring you at least major parts of the oversight hearing so you can hear what the DISID ASO or the DVR ASO had to say about some of the funds being returned. So you can hear the issues with procurement that Bill Kando from DISID was talking about, and that you'll hear from the leaders over at DISID, but more importantly, the consumers who had a lot to say when they testified before senators. This has nothing to do with the live stream, nothing to do with the news. So I don't know if you can see this because the camera is one of those special cameras, but there. These are the best rice crackers. This is not our advertiser. I don't even know like who distributes this or anything. I just got this at the store. And they're so delicious. I wanted to share it with you and make this announcement. These are the best rice crackers I've ever had. This only applies if you like hot. Like I like eating hot peppers. These are just the tastiest. These are very hot, by the way. The tastiest rice crackers ever. I'm pretty sure the words are in Japanese because the only English thing it says on the packet is Okinawa at the very top. And then the only other English thing on this is extremely hot rice crackers and peanuts. It's very hot. Anyway, let's continue on. Oh, shoot, I didn't set up. Hold on. I need to set up the thingy that goes to the hearing itself. Pardon me. That'll be real fast. I did not do that in setting up this show because many times I'm just not prepared. Let me see. I think this is it. Okay, good. Almost, everyone. Almost. Okay. And we can start now.
Rita, you're recognized. Thank you, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you. I am the Administrative Services Officer, and so I'll be explaining or giving you some highlights on our grant funds. How we receive them. The funds are the amount of funds that are awarded to Guam is determined by federal statutory formula, and that's by population and per capita income based on the national average. And so we receive, each fiscal year, we receive our grants like in the first quarter, around November in the first award. And then the second award would come in the second quarter around April, March or April. But at the same time, we're operating with carryover funds from the previous fiscal year. So I want to explain that there's a reallotment process of the fundings that we receive, because we're operating with 2 grants going on concurrently each fiscal year. So there is a reallotment process. That is when we relinquish funds that are unused, or we're not able to, we know before August each year that we're not able to expend those funds. And so during that time, RSA, our federal grantor, they have a reallotment process. And during this process, you can either relinquish funds so that other state agencies are able to use those funds and can match those funds. Or you can also go in during that same period of time and request for additional funds, as long as you know that you're able to match it. So in the past years, we have been relinquishing funds because we're operating, as I mentioned, carryover funds from the previous year. So we have 2 grants going on concurrently. And we try to maximize our funds as much as possible. And the funds that we do relinquish, it's not hampering any services to our clients, because those are funds that we know that are not going to be expended or matched that fiscal year. Okay, so let's see. Our awards that we've been returning has been, sometimes it's based on, like Mr. Cameron was mentioning, some of the areas that we were having issues with trying to expend funds, and that's personnel shortages, and then during the time of the COVID, we definitely returned funds during that year. And procurement, sometimes it's an issue trying to procure for services to our consumers, and the lack of service providers here on Guam for our clients. So let's see.
Thank you, Rita. DVR going forward, we continue to collaborate with National Technical Assistance Centers and the Rehab Services Administration to complete our corrective action plan. We increase participation with Guam agencies.
So we want to brainstorm with your office, in ways that we could potentially amend the procurement law. Some examples might be increasing the thresholds. Right now, anything below $25,000 is a small purchase for either services or equipment. When we're purchasing items, assistive technology items, even less than $10,000, like for a power scooter, it's taken more than a year. In one instance, we just don't have. We've gone over, and we collaborate very closely. We have to go through GSA, but just in these procurements, a lot of times locally, the vendors just can't source it.
Mr. Kondo, what is your threshold, your current threshold at the moment?
Right now, our thresholds are strictly, we follow the 5 GCA. So we follow those thresholds. But even for a simple RFQ, I mean, we would really need to minimize the number of formal either RFPs or IFBs that we need to do, because those already take a long time. But if we can minimize the number of formal procurements, Then relative to the businesses that we want the businesses to open their doors for placement. We don't really see that as a procurement. It may be an MOU, a template that we devised where all businesses can participate, because we don't want the businesses to compete. Any business that wants to make themselves as an employer available to our clients, because our clients are choosing them. And so if they're choosing a specific employer, we don't really see a competitive procurement process. So what does that look like? We want to go there and try to figure that out. So those are just some examples.
Little challenges.
Thank you. Just wanted to tap on to what Mr. Kandit was saying when it comes to procurement. Our clients, the consumers, the needs that they have are direct needs, are right today needs. So when we go through the procurement process, the challenge of having to wait for, finding a wheelchair or we have to go through this whole procurement process just to find a specific type. But it's a need that needs to be provided right away, right? So we understand the other services that perhaps are needed or equipment that can wait, but a lot of these things can't wait because it deals with independence. It deals with them finding, because with independence comes the ability to find employment or to find, to go off in training. So that's where we're coming from with regards to perhaps there's a way to amend the procurement process for specific things.
It's most likely something we can actually discuss and consider and carefully craft, but perhaps with a caveat of reporting and accountability.
$20 million. And then you have Georgia that reallocated 41 million. And then you have Indiana who
we have that report in front of us.
But that number is different every year.
Okay, so for Guam, I just want to talk about Guam. Of course, everybody wants to know, can we do different?
We can. There's what we're reallocating back or returning, as most people refer it to, is the funding that's not matched by local match, right? So when we first initially have to turn in our budget, right, our budget request, and what we do is we look at what our maintenance of effort was for the last 2 years, and then we base our funding that we received to what we would like to request from the legislature to provide for a local match. So what we've been seeing in our trend and our burn rate every year, based on the different challenges that we're having with procurement, with staffing, with service providers not being available, and all those other things, is what can we ask from our local government to match in order, it's reasonable for us to say that we can spend. So every year, every fiscal year since I've been on board, we've been around the 300,000 mark for asking for local match. We get funding, we get our notice of awards twice a year. The first is within the first quarter of the year, then the second is like going into the second to the third. By the time we get the second notice of award, and we notice that we got 2,085,000 that we've actually got from the legislature to match that federal funds. The difference is what we're not matching, but it's at no fault to the legislature or to the agency, because we're trying to project what we can spend reasonably within the time frame that we're getting these funds. So then the difference is what we're reallocating back.
So we didn't, yes, so we didn't allocate enough matching to meet what they're actually giving you.
Yes.
Can we do that differently in the upcoming years? For example, is there a need?
There is.
Can we meet the need if we increase the match?
There's always a need, Senator.
That's what I thought.
Unfortunately, we can have the money, but if there's no place to spend the money or find the services or or staff or whatever else we need, then it doesn't seem fiscally responsible for us to ask for that amount of money if we already know that we're not able to spend it. So we're not trying to overspend because
see.
we're also getting carryover from the previous year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a need,
Yes.
and there might be funding available, but we cannot meet this need because we cannot hire enough qualified people
And we
to
can't
be counselors.
and the service providers right out there that can provide the service to like training services and so forth is very limited here. So we're trying to be more robust in finding those services, in opening up our business engagement unit to try and also find those resources out there so that we can spend more money. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and how aggressive is that plan? Is there any hope, I guess, that we can give the consumers that there will be additional services this year?
Well, our approach is, yes, we're hitting the ground running. I mean, we've been trying to brainstorm on other ways to entice employers, and that's why we opened up the business engagement unit. We've been trying to work with our federal counterparts and other DVR agencies out in, throughout.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is it the employers that we're short on, or is it providers, you said, for training that we're short
Everything.
on? Or
We're short on employers that meet the need. It's meeting the need of the consumer, not meeting the need of the employer. So that, that needs to be really, because it's about consumer driven. It's informed choice of the consumer. That's one thing. The other thing is finding service providers that can provide the service, provide the training to these. Our counselors try to find these on their own right now, right? So opening up the business unit is one way. So we're spending more money now that we created the pre-ETS unit, so that helps, right? So we're trying different ways, but we have a total of 5 counselors, 2 of them in pre-ETS and 3 in the consumer unit that are handling the entire island and trying their best to figure out how are we going to provide this service to the consumer. So yes, it's a big challenge. It's a very big challenge. The money is not the issue.
all right, would it, if we shifted more for the pre-ETS, would that work or not?
We are spending more money on pre-ETS than we are on other service providers
And
right now.
this grant, you can put it all towards pre-ETS if you wanted
We
to?
can put as much as we
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
in pre-ETS.
Regarding that, Senator, so yes, it all starts with the pre-ETS, because at that age, you want to start as, 14 to 21. Our goal, though, is to transition them to become VR consumers, which, then they avail to the full array of VR services. And then we can spend more and meet their needs more. So if, once the pre-ETS unit becomes a well-oiled machine, it's going to affect positively, we think positively affect the consumer unit, and they will have more consumers, will need more counselors. We need to fix the salary for the counselors. Because the VR...
If that's the issue, it seems like...
Well, the VRCs they were not included in the Hay study. And so we think because they were not accidentally or otherwise included in the Hay study, we probably can work with DOA, HR to fix that.
What are you waiting for?
So that's another area we're gonna address.
Are you working on that?
We are. It's been brought up before, so we just need to go back and revisit that. Even with the VR supervisor position that has been open for several years, we've had to go in and amend that so that the qualifications are more feasible for this person to, anyone to apply, because you have to have a certain certification, which, not everyone has. And so there's a lot of things, Senator. I mean, we are trying. We can always do better, and that's always been the what we've tried to project. And yes, there have been challenges. There's challenges with the current consumers that we have waiting for certain services or placement. And, so yes, we're trying our best to figure it out.
All right. Well, I feel like the DOA issue is one that director to director you need to resolve, or cabinet, you guys are all cabinet members, that has to be resolved, and it has to be, you have to be aggressive about it. We've seen this with other agencies, and if you're not aggressive, you're not going to get the attention. And if we want to take care of our consumers, and that's what we're going to have to do. Can you just clarify, on page 6, you say there are 315 consumers, and then on page 7, you talk about 68 applicants. What's the difference between applicants and consumers?
People or individuals with disabilities may apply for a VR service, and that application can take anywhere from 30 to 60 to 90 days, and upon which time that they are determined eligible, fully eligible, then there's something called an individualized plan for employment, wherein the consumer sits down with the counselor and they start mechanizing and start idealizing what they really want.
All right, so why are there so few applicants out of 315 consumers?
Senator, perhaps I can clarify that. So when you look at the chart, it's 315 total for 2025. That's how many consumers we had. We were just targeting how many applicants for 2026. There were 68 applicants. That's not to include the current caseload of consumers from 2025. These are just the new consumers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2020, so are we trying to match the number of applicants with the number of consumers, right? We're trying to get all our consumers who are interested into the program to become applicants and be qualified?
Correct, yes. So if you look at, perhaps maybe the chart should have been a little more clear and direct, that out of the 68 people that came in through our doors in 2026, all 68 were found eligible for services. Now they're considered consumers.
Okay, so do we go from 315 to 68 from one year to the next?
No, this is specific to counting how many new applicants and how many new consumers for this fiscal year from October 1 to present.
Okay, well, how many then did you have in 2025?
315.
That's what I mean. So
Yeah.
did we go from 315 to 68 times 2 is not going to get us anywhere near 315.
The 315 in 2025, they remain active cases. They remain active VR consumers.
Okay, so these are new.
These are new.
All right.
Yes.
And then when you did this, the CAP, the Corrective Action Plan, and then you also did a needs assessment. So the needs assessment was done in 2023. When was the Corrective Action Plan done?
So the corrective action plan would have started thereafter in 2023 up until the current. So the progress I was giving on the corrective action plan is the most current progress.
All right, and when you say there's another needs assessment going to happen, this time by UOG, will do it when?
As soon as we complete the signatory phase of the agreement, the assessment, it needs to be done once every 3 years.
Okay.
So you do the assessment and then you strive to make those improvements.
You correct.
Yeah. And then so it's federally required once every 3 years.
All right, so you've known since 2023, just this, when will you complete your corrective action requirements from 2023?
Well, with only 15% left, I mean, so we're hoping that within the next 6 months, we should be done.
All right, and then if you completed that, what does that mean for the consumers? What has improved for them by following all that corrective action plan? Have we increased the number that we can serve?
I think so. I think all areas of our division are improving. We're improving the way we do procurement, although we think we need outside agency help to streamline it even further. We have more focused policies on how we provide services. We've developed an actual first-time policy for pre-ETs because it's a fairly new program, and so that's a success story. First time we've had, we really needed a financial management and accountability policy to show the federal government and our local government that we're actually capable of tracking our federal funds, to the penny. And so those are some of the success stories that we're achieving.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. I can circle back again. I just want to give an opportunity. Senator Sabrina Salas-Matanani, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the panel, DICIT, and as well as DVR. I appreciate the presentation that you provided to the committee. But what I find interesting and a little bit more concerning is not necessarily the presentation, but the written testimony that was provided. And I'd like to read at least one of them and kind of go through some of the others. But this one, I just received it before I walked in. And it is, I am the mother of a young man with autism spectrum disorder who graduated in 2019 from Southern High School. My son was a client of the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation from 2019 to 2022. During that time, DVR helped him find a job, created an individual plan for employment, IPE, with my son's employer, and provided job training. Unfortunately, the services provided by DVR ended before the goal in his IPE were achieved, meaning that he was not truly ready to be independent in the workplace. His employer saw the potential in him and requested an extension of DVR services in order to achieve the goals that were set in place by DVR and the employer. This request was made so that my son could continue to receive job coaching and training. Despite this professional recommendation and my son's clear need for more time due to his disability, DVR refused to extend his services. Once DVR closed his case, there was no follow-up or guidance on what steps he could take next to continue building his skills or maintain employment. As a parent, it was heartbreaking to watch my son lose the progress he had made simply because support from DVR ended too soon. Individuals with disabilities often need a little extra time and continued guidance to succeed, not because they are unable, but because they learn differently. And that's just one testimony. And another testimony that we received.
Senator, we will call them for the second panel.
Oh,
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that this person is not testifying. Is there anybody here that is a client or a consumer? Evelyn, okay. Mr. Rohr, are you going to be testifying? Well, okay. So I guess then I'll ask, how does DVR define a success case? A successful case?
Under the federal guidelines, vocational rehabilitation placement that is 3 months fully actualized employment, then that individual will be considered a successful closure. But notwithstanding, even if an individual has already worked 3 months, 90 days, it is still the responsibility of the counselor to go back quarterly for a full year to see that that individual is doing okay in that job, even though they've already succeeded 90 days and they were closed. We are required to go back in on a quarterly basis, up to 4 quarters, to make sure that there are no outstanding issues that may cause a concern for keeping the job.
And so can a case be closed even if the individual plan for employment, the IPE goals, are not fully achieved?
It's possible that an individual at the time that their case was closed has already met the federal guidelines, but there is no reason to reopen the case if that is needed. There's no finite, you're out, you can't come back in. We can bring you back in.
So, but in the case that I just read that from the consumer didn't complete the IPE, and the employer also requested an extension for continued support, but it was denied.
Yeah, I would like very much if that person who made that statement to maybe actually come and see me and see what we can do to reopen that case if it's been closed.
Okay. That's all I was going to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We can also connect you, and because they sent their testimony through the email, and so we can forward you guys the email.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I'll just ask a question.
At this point, I'd like to recognize Vice Speaker Ada.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the panel for being here this afternoon. Mr. Cando, you were mentioning earlier about procurement, and there was an issue with the procurement for a wheelchair. What seems to be the problem with the procurement system within the
First of all, it's not just a procurement, it's a fitting. So we're required to have that individual with specific needs, especially a wheelchair or a motorized type of scooter. That device, we have on island individuals or companies that can actually do the fitting, and so that when we actually go out, we actually ask that that person's fitting be specific to what we're wanting to purchase. And that company has to be upfront that they have the actual electric chair or a scooter. And what we've found out here in Guam is that the doors have closed because they cannot provide it.
It's a challenge for them to meet the specifications, because the fitting involves also, they go through a rehabilitation specialist, and they are really assessed in a very detailed way. And so sometimes it's just the specifications are so detailed, it's difficult for the local vendors to source this specific powered scooter, in which case even GSA couldn't process it. And so they said, if you guys can find it off island, we release you. Go ahead and procure it independently, in which case we do. And again, that process is still guided by the client. They're looking for a specific scooter that's going to meet their needs.
Specifically, Senator, the word sole source is a no-no for us to use, even though the consumer has informed rights under federal regulations to select. Oh, you cannot have sole source. We will determine that for you. It's kind of like taking away the rights of an individual with a disability to request for a specific technology.
But if the procurement competitively takes us to a sole source, of course we can avail to the 5GCA sole source process collaboratively with GSA. But of course we try competitively first.
So we know that we have that type of issue on our hands currently. Are you folks doing anything to get with vendors and say this could be a situation in the future? Are we doing anything to be proactive in ensuring that we can find vendors that will be able to do these type of procurements with specialized wheelchairs?
There's two vendors on Guam that we're very familiar with and have worked with for many years. But as these individualized types of fitting become more complex, they're not availing their services. The two companies are not availing their services.
So are we looking for any additional vendors out there to provide this type of services for you? Or, I mean...
One of the problems that we've encountered is that we wanted them to actually participate by going through the process of DOA accounting, where you become known as a vendor, right? And so what that means is that they will get paid later. Some of these companies in the States, especially in Hawaii, they says, no, we want cash up front.
Yeah, and the government of Guam has that issue of not paying vendors on time, or, you know, just leaving them to hang, and 90 days can go by and no payment. But I think even for the procurement of a wheelchair, you know, specialized type chair, maybe we need to look at more vendors out there and kind of like get them ahead of time to say, we can try to work with you, but what was that, over a year just to get that specialized chair?
And this chair is not just a chair.
Yeah.
It is part of their body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It gets them to work.
Yeah. And that's why we need to look really for vendors here locally so that we can provide this type of services to the consumer as soon as possible. And,
yeah, and maybe that could also be an initiative of the business engagement unit, not only to find employers for our clients to work at, but maybe we engage the businesses to let them know our challenges, what we're trying to do, and get them to participate more as vendors as we try to procure from them. And so that could potentially be improved.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just trying to find other avenues to provide the services and in a more timely manner, and so that the inconvenience to the consumer is not as long as that one issue there, or, you know, if there's any other issues, I'm not sure, but something to effectuate a more expedient type of process to provide to the consumers. Yeah. Yeah.
Only because you brought this up. Back in 1990, I was the director of the Department of Vocational Rehab. The first director for DISIT in 95, I was that first director. I'm counting 55 years of my life helping people with disabilities. And I remembered when GSA was different in those earlier days, and when they highlighted something that says person with a disability, they jumped hoops for us. But we are governed by a land of laws that has just superseded above and beyond what we think we're able to do.
Okay, thank you. And I think the only other question I had was, you were mentioning about UOG and a contract or signatures. What was that, a little bit more detail on that?
Yeah, we're in the process of just making minor corrections to a memorandum of agreement between us, between DVR and UOG Cedars, for them to collaboratively with us to complete the next 3-year comprehensive statewide needs assessment. That would lead to, you know, also more improvements. Mm-hmm. Because the assessment is required once every 3 years.
Yeah. Is there any other contracts between you folks and UOG? No.
Not right now, but we do have ongoing RFPs in process that you know, may lead to that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to go into that. Yeah.
Yes.
It's active.
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. I wanted to ask a few questions before I call in the next panel. This is going to be quick, but out of curiosity, I'd like to know, for individuals who completed training but remain unemployed after 3 to 6 months, what target interventions or follow-up mechanisms are currently in place, and how effective have those been eventually transitioning them into employment? So if they already completed the prerequisite or the requirements and they're still waiting for a job, what do we have in place for them? Just so, is there anything?
It goes back to our original comment that trying to find employers and the match has been an issue with us. Are there ways to work around it? Yes. Sometimes parents end up doing it themselves, to be quite honest, and either through their collaboration with somebody that owns a business and it works in different ways. I think the contract that we had just signed with the Department of Labor on the one-stop shop, they are the ones to actually match remember that this is not disability, this is ability. So they have a special program called a one-stop that helps us match so that we're not over here just doing the training.
I see. I guess moving forward, it would be something that I can also, we can also work on, just so we can figure out. I know that there are many, when they're done and they're just waiting, but I do understand where you're coming from, Mr. Joe, wherein employers are also one of the challenges. And I guess we can probably work on something where this whole setup or procedural things or requirement can probably be changed or work on a policy level, just so we can probably accommodate other ideas, right?
Thank you so much for even mentioning that. One of our members who was really coming to me regularly, will the governor be appointing me to the State Rehab Council? And it's really through the strong hand of Ms. Flores that he ended up on our list of names to be on the board. And he is the president of, I can't pronounce, what does SHRM mean? Help me out here. The Human Resources. And he is the president. And he's all excited. I was eating lunch at Moses, and he came up to me out of the blues and says, "Hey, am I going to be appointed?" I mean, he was really pushing hard, will I be appointed? And he's really excited to engage in his monthly meetings with different HR companies with HR higher-ups to start doing some business with us.
And I guess Stacy will play that significant role moving forward. And we got to start knocking on businesses' doors and ensure that, they know about these programs and they can participate, right?
Yes.
Call me, I'll help you.
Thank you.
In line with that, my first question, I just wanted to ask, what is your successful rate, with the training programs? How many individuals, after they completed the training, how many of them are placed into jobs that are directly aligned with the skills that they were trained for? And what does that indicate about how well our training programs are calibrated?
The Comprehensive Needs Assessment Survey for Guam showed a rather low percentage, and it went from anywhere from 17 to 32%. And when we were looking at other state agencies, some of them had the same population as Guam, had similar low percentages. But that doesn't mean we can't push it higher.
Is it because, they're trained, the skills that they acquire, sometimes it's not parallel to an employment that's available?
it is quite possible because like we trained somebody through for several years, and then we ended up bringing that individual to GCC for graphic arts, right? And that was the client's passion. I mean, that client went through like 5 years and then another 2 years, but yet short of opening up his own business, you know what I mean? He had a big level of difficulty being acknowledged to be employed.
Yeah, I would say, again, I think the key for us is, we never had a business engagement unit before, which we've just very recently launched. So I think that's really the key to making it a more robust, opportunity. We need to bring the employers on board. It's not their fault. We need to do the outreach. And to make it known, what they can do for the population that's disabled, what they can do for them, what they can do for us, what we can do to help them understand. Once that becomes more robust, I think anything is possible.
Commissioner Dante Allen, the former commissioner of Rehab Service Administration, he brought to the table very bad stats nationwide about what you're talking about. And so he put out a Dear Colleague letter telling every single state agency, that when they go back home, they are to open up a Stacy. A business engagement unit.
Can I just add something for clarity? So the business engagement unit is the liaison, and we're the liaison between the VR counselors and the business community. And then moving back to PREETS is a conduit to job placement for these students who are potentially eligible to become consumers of VR. So after these students transition out of PREETS, we're hoping that they become consumers of VR. So that's currently with PREETS, we have 5 potentially eligible students, and another 5 who may be coming on board. So my unit is, again, just as a reminder, we're on 44 days today, and having established this unit, we've connected with 16 employers. That's not to say that I have not reached out to more. I just don't want it to be bottlenecked. So we're already on board with employers who want to start taking on our consumers. So thank you for offering your help. I will knock on your door when I need to.
Bring it on. Thank you, Ms. Stacy. I just wanted to say that this would be perfect opportunity to also identify the skills of individuals, so we can actually find accurate matching, right? And then we can actually up our numbers and ensure that we utilize our funding sources.
And again, I'm sorry, but this goes back to the lack of staff that we have, the counselors. Again, the VR counselors are the driving force to get consumers signed up. So I'm waiting, and unfortunately, we don't have enough counselors to spread the outreach and to get, everyone works so hard, and we're hoping that you will consider our needs.
Well, we're hoping that this hearing will shed light and encouragement to employers out there. So I'm reaching out. I'm going to take this opportunity to speak to all the businesses out there and the employers. Make sure, please, connect to DVR so we can actually up our numbers. Anyways, before I move forward, I just wanted to recognize again, if there are pending other questions, my colleagues? Oh, Senator Perez is back. Senator Perez, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So in our statutes, there's a mandate for 2% hiring of persons with disabilities. And so my understanding is we haven't reached that goal, or is that?
I think the entire government of Guam has reached that goal, only because the manner in which the 2% was created, it didn't say for each new fiscal year. So it's easy that somebody has asthma, somebody has arthritis, or whatever else the employee, they're currently employed. It's a misnomer, to be quite honest, to use the word 1%, 2%, whatever percent. I think we need to amend or just get rid of it and say, Gov Guam, every time you turn in a vacancy to fill, I want to know that you are filling it by a percentage of your new vacancies versus 2% of your agency.
Hi, Senator. So currently, the 2% law, really, we've talked about this before. Several years back, even when my former director, Leon Guerrero, was here, regarding the need to amend that 2% law, because right now what it states is that DISID DVR, the individual has to be a consumer of DISID DVR in order, to be counted as a person with a disability and be part of the 2%. In other words, if they're not, and not every individual with a disability comes to VR for services. So there may be government agencies out there that have individuals with disabilities that can be counted as 2%, but based on the current statute, that does not, it will not apply to them, because they have to be an individual person that is a consumer of VR. So we've had a conversation before, several years back, regarding the 2%. Perhaps that's something we can bring up again. But it also states that DISID DVR is the manager of this program, and we don't know how many other agencies out there have individuals who have applied who have disabilities, because they don't come through our doors. So.
And one of the other caveat is that not everybody with a disability wants to be known that they are disabled.
Okay, the other thing is the budget. So this idea that money was relinquished because we didn't have the funding to match, if I heard correctly, Ms.
The money,
Sotomayor?
the word relinquish was not really a true word. It was reallocated so that other state agencies who have an opportunity to utilize the money that was reallocated.
Yeah.
And they're lacking money.
Okay, but I thought I heard Mrs. Sotomayor, you were saying that for those instances where we didn't have any matches, that the money had to be relinquished. Is that correct?
Okay. Is this on? Thank you. Actually, the return of funds, we were calling it, like Mr. Cameron said, relinquishing, reallocating back to other state agencies during a period where those are funds that we know cannot be expended before the end of the grant period. And so there's only a period of time once every year that you can relinquish funds to be used by other state agencies who can match the funds and also are able to expend those funds. I wanted to make mention earlier that, although we keep relinquishing funds every year, that it's showing, at the same time, Guam receives federal funds from RSA based again on the capita and the population. And so we've been noticing our grant funds that are given to Guam have been increasing every year. So that's the reason why, as it increases, we're having to relinquish at the same time. We're not saying that that we're not given the local match. As a matter of fact, this fiscal year for 2026, because of all the work that's being done now and what's been mentioned here, that we want to expend those funds, we may need to come in and request for additional local match funds. This would be the first time that we'd ever do that. You know, if we're wanting to keep and maintain and not relinquish, because at this time, we're already anticipating of receiving more federal dollars than what we've already budgeted for fiscal year 26.
Okay, in regards to the needs assessment, so, I mean, we've heard, I've seen news stories, I've heard families talk about how their experience, right? It's basically a repetitive experience. They come to DVR, you know, they seek help, but in the end, they don't they get employed, but it's not you know, sustainable employment, right? So they get placed, but it's not sustained. And so I think that seems to be the experience of many families here. You know, the dissatisfaction with the ability for sustained employment. And so in thinking about, and you know, there's different various experiences. The needs assessment that you created, does it address, you know, how expansive is it? Does it address those clients or customers that have dropped out of the system, or is it just what's currently being monitored now?
Yes, it does. It does address a lot of those. I'll be more than happy to send you a electronic copy of the very last needs assessment. And I kind of like saw some of the questions that were coming from Chairperson Calvo, but it doesn't show all the other things that I saw in that needs assessment that I highlighted as potential opportunities for growth. So I'll be happy. Willie, send her the needs assessment. Would you like that as
Yes,
a binded?
Just the email copy would be perfect, yeah. No need to print it out.
We'll be happy to send it to you.
Yeah, because it's, you know, I know the needs are great when it comes to those with disabilities, and, you know, what we budget unfortunately in the budget is not enough. We know we had to ask for supplemental funding for caregiving services, and that didn't meet the needs of the community. Right. So it's really critical that, you know, when it comes time for budget, that, you know, we can do our best to support those needs, right? And hopefully at the first try, not have a supplemental necessarily. Yeah, so that's just, you know, some of the concerns that I have with, you know, the budget, making sure that we are asking for already. You're already anticipating the federal funding is going to be greater, so that should already be automatic that we're going to ask for the in-kind, or I'm sorry, the matching funds. Correct.
And I know that there are parents out there that still have really concerns. I want them to reach out to me, and so that I can see what we can do to re-engage that opportunity for re-employment.
Okay, and I think the government's the lower hanging fruit in this, right? Because I think what ultimately, what has to happen is they have to update their PDQs. And so we can integrate the workforce development when it comes to those with disabilities, or in anybody in that, for that matter. So, you know, have you talked to Director Byrne or the HR department in Department of Administration in regards to ensuring that the PDQs are updated so it incorporates those with disabilities or prioritizes them?
I don't know. I haven't had a conversation with him about it. We have not had any challenges when an individual is placed in a government agency that they meet the criteria that is needed in order to be part of, you know, to qualify for that position or even train for that position. So that is, we haven't had a challenge with that, but I agree that there needs to be an audit on the different PDQs out there government-wide, but, definitely can speak to him about that.
Yeah, because I think we can probably meet the needs if we can find these vacancies. There's a lot of vacancies, actually. And so we can, tailor it to the needs of our community here. That would be, I think, highly recommended. I know the businesses are another option for sure, but the government, I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. Okay, so I look forward to looking at that needs assessment. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Paris. Senator Talahi? Just if I could just get
Just to complete
those,
your-
yes,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Those questions that you were answering and your answers, if we could get a copy of that, that would help us.
Sure, we'll send it your way.
All right.
We'll send it to the entire committee.
Yeah, thank
We'll
you.
send it to our chair, and
Yes.
you can go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to hearing the next panel as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the first panel. I just want to say I truly appreciate your comprehensive testimonies, and appreciate that you're answering all questions. And if there are other questions that come about in the next hour or two, I guess we will let you guys know. We can also coordinate through email. And please don't leave, because there may be questions that may arise after the testimonies, after you guys. But I'd like to thank Stacy, Ruel, Michelle, Joe, William, Riza, and Michael. Thank you so much for your testimonies. I will excuse you guys at this point, and please find a seat somewhere and still join us, just in case we have further questions for you guys. And now I'd like to call in the next panel.
Sorry, Senator, can I just make
Director?
a brief statement? I also wanted to recognize the staff that's here.
Of course.
Our DVR and DISID
Your
staff.
hardworking
Yes,
staff.
they came also to show that they're very interested in what this is about.
Yes.
And what we can do to improve. But I also want to acknowledge the hard work that they've done so far too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to DISID and DVR staff. And thank you for being here. I'd like to call in all the individuals that listed that they were going to offer their testimony, individuals who are here present, and those individuals who submitted their testimonies via email. If you are present, please, may I invite you all to take a seat up here in the panel. Thank you for your patience. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I was just going to ask, Ms. Evelyn, are you going to testify? You are. So I would... Ladies and gentlemen, I will begin with Ms. Evelyn first. Ms. Evelyn, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Hello? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I was able to listen to all the grillings that our DISID DVR had received. I would like to share some of those situations. I'm one of them that went through approximately maybe 3-4 years in waiting for a new power scooter because of the lack of vendor and procurement issues. They had procured a scooter back just last year, as a matter of fact, in November. But when the scooter had arrived, it wasn't. I would describe that device as a monster truck because I definitely could not use it at all. It wasn't able to fit on the transit lift or ramp. It was super long. It was not able to access my apartment unit, both bathroom and bedroom, and then I could not get on and off it independently. So, due to that result, I waited for another year, 2 years, 3 years. Then finally, as you can see, the device I'm sitting on, I just came back from Hawaii in April 11th of this month, finally getting a scooter that would help me be independent within the community. So the process, not just with VR alone, but including other agencies in the government of Guam, such as GSA and vendors who would be able to provide the device or maintain the device for repairs, is no longer active here on Guam. So my last recollection with all these things really was back in 1986 through 89 on my high school years, was when Guam had a local vendor that dealt with mobility devices that didn't need to go through assessments with measurements or whatsoever. Because my experience too with the measurements didn't pan out. And they did too, and none of them were efficient enough. So it technically had to go the route to where DVR had to make a decision to send me off island to get the proper device. So that's basically how I currently now have the device, because they sent me off island. And I was able to retrieve a device without assessment. It's just with me looking at the device, getting on the device, and seeing if it worked for me. So technically, the assessment alone that occurred here in 2 different vendors was not even necessary, because when I communicated with the vendor that DVR had recommended, it was literally just getting on a scooter to see whether I fit it or not and whether I can handle it or not. It's just basically that. The biggest concern that I would say would occur with things like this is when the scooter requires maintenance and repair. There's just nobody on island that would do that. So that's the biggest concern now, with not having anybody on island that can do that. And that's one of my biggest hurdles. The next biggest hurdle is we were talking about employment. I was successfully employed through the program called back then in 1990 to 91, the 700-hour program. I was successfully and gainfully employed through that program. The obstacle that I experienced on that one was everything was successful after the evaluation, but the agency that I was hired by didn't have the budget to include me under their agency. So I had to go for another 90 days without pay until the agency was able to include an additional funding under their budget. And then they brought me back onto the department, but I was gainfully employed through the 700-hour program, which is now called the 2% law. And it's a lot confusing with literally everybody, including agencies, to literally understand how that program works. So I, again, like I said, was gainfully employed through that, then went on medical disability in 2003 due to a job injury. Then went back to the world of work, I would say before the pandemic, and then lost my employment after the pandemic. The problem through that, really from my experience as an individual with disability, and everyone else has a different take on it because we all have different types of limitations, is the employer lost a huge revenue on their end, so they couldn't pull me back. So, of course, from there, I was able to go back to VR, and they're still in the process in helping me seek employment again. So, is there a problem? From what I experience and what I view, there's problems basically from what I saw on my end was there's still a huge stigmatism with employers retaining individuals with disabilities. It's not just because they don't know how to work with individuals with disabilities or they're afraid. It's because their favorite vocabulary word is liability. And I'm like, there's liability everywhere, right? So, but when I went through that experience, I was told by management through the company that I was working for was that it's best if individuals with disabilities just get hired through VR so that any obstacles or barriers will not fall into the employer's hands, meaning they don't want to be held liable. They basically just throw the issues and problems back to Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, which to me is not fair because they still want to keep, and I'll speak for myself, they still want to keep individuals like myself um, isolated and not be a part of the community as a whole. So from my experience on the employment side, we still have a huge stigmatism on the employers to hire people with disabilities. And I can say for myself, I do have skills in doing things as well as knowledge, and I've turned in resumes, but because the employer looking at me with a device and not myself as a person and giving me the opportunity to show them what I can do, that's where the obstacles and barriers are for me as well as for some others that I see and hear. So it's not necessarily just on the person itself. It's basically on both sides, the employer and the individual. But to place anybody out there with an individual with a disability who truly wants to work, then it's really their choice to do, and it's not anyone else's choice but theirs. And it also depends on the employment side or the type of environment the individual is going to go into. So with employment, really, there's still a huge stigmatism. The other biggest scenario with employment is transportation. So these are the keys that really would help any individual with a disability, is to break these barriers. But if we don't work together to break the barriers and to become part of the solution instead of part of the problem, then it's never going to work. And people with disabilities would always, and I'll speak this highly for myself because we all have different needs. Every individual is different. We all know what's B&B, right? Not bed and breakfast. But for me, B&B is a burden and a bother when an individual has no empathy at all to giving the individual the opportunity to show what they can do. So we still need a lot of educational training and sensitivity training out in the community as well to help break these barriers. And we can also go to protection and advocacy, which we do have on island, but that being under Guam Legal Service really makes it difficult to do. So with the protection and advocacy, from my experience in that regards as well, they can also help with employment and other related issues to the individuals. Is they need to separate that program from where it's currently at and put it in its own little cubbyhole, because I've requested assistance through the PNA and they have told me that PNA is only eligible now for individuals who are bedridden. And since I've understood PNA is a national organization nationally that literally just helps anybody with any type of disabilities. So if we can get that back out to where it should be, it would help alleviate some of these current problems that we have. Does this need more money? Yes, this needs more money. That VR possible, but in actuality, we just need stakeholders in there that would really be empathetic in understanding how the agency or the division is supposed to work. So, from my previous years with being with VR, it has never been this critical. Is it a lot more critical now? Yes, it is. It's like fighting through teeth and nail to get it. Did I wait almost 5 years to get a scooter? Yes, I did. Was it frustrating? Yes. It came to the point where I'm not a person that gives up, but it came to the point where if they didn't get it to me any sooner, I prefer to go than to continue to live. So that's all my experience through all of this. Can we make the system better? Yes, we can. Can we bring more services to Guam? Yes, we can. And it all really just boils down to everybody working together. When I went to Hawaii, did I want to come back? No. But Guam is my home, so that's why I'm back. We got to make the service better here, especially transportation that would take us to and from employment or wherever. Without transportation, we can't go anywhere. Without my mobility device, I can't be independent. So that goes for everyone else who need it, whether it's training, mobility device, or transportation. It's solely needed. And we need to fill the vacancies in government of Guam? Yes, because I do remember when I was active with the government of Guam.
Ms. Evelyn, I don't want to cut you, but we can circle back to you again. I just want to give a chance for the other
And
testimonials.
I was just about to do that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evelyn. But I truly appreciate that you actually pointed out Ms. Evelyn, you pointed out 4 crucial elements in your statement that I truly appreciate that you brought up. One was the transportation, your challenges. Your personal challenges is duly noted. Another thing that you brought up is obviously the stigma on the employment, which is very important for us to consider. And I also appreciate that you dabbled upon the protection and advocacy part as, you know, a challenging part as well. I truly appreciate, I'm pretty sure we all truly appreciate your testimony. And later on, as we go through all the other testimonies, we can circle back and perhaps, you know, if you could stay back, we can actually ask your opinion about certain matters. But at this point in time, I'd like to recognize the other ones. Thank you, Ms. Evelyn. Please state your name for the record, and please speak closer to the microphone so it's we can everybody can hear you guys. Thank you.
Yes. My name is Jerry Leon Guerrero. I sit on the board for Special Olympics Guam, but I'm here to provide testimony as a private company supporting persons with disabilities. So Buenas and Hafaday, thank you for having us today. For the opportunity to provide testimony regarding our experience working with the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. Aztec has long been committed to workforce development in Guam, particularly in real-world, hands-on training opportunities in marketing, communications, and graphic design. For several years, we partnered with DVR to support trainees placed within our organization. While we respect and support the mission of DVR, our experience revealed ongoing challenges that impacted the effectiveness of the program for both trainees and us employers. One of the primary concerns was the inflexibility and antiquated training structure. Our industry requires progressive, skills-based development. Trainees must first build foundational competencies before they can meaningfully contribute in a professional setting. So to address this, Aztec developed an internal training program designed to support trainees at a pace aligned with real industry expectations. And this is in regard with marketing, graphics, web. However, when trainees were unable to complete this program, we were limited in our ability to move them forward or provide additional opportunities within our company. So over time, we consistently communicated the need to DVR for adjustments, including allowing trainees more time to develop within a specific industry, aligning training expectations with real-world job readiness, and providing flexibility in timelines to support different learning paces. Unfortunately, these recommendations were not supported. A significant challenge was the expectations for trainees to be ready for employment within approximately 3 months. In technical and creative fields like ours, this timeline is often not realistic. Meaningful skill development, confidence, and workplace readiness require more time, especially in structured learning environments. Despite our continued efforts to collaborate and improve outcomes, the limitations within our program ultimately led to the end of our partnership. This decision was made out of concern that the structure in the place was not setting trainees or employers up for long-term success. We believe strongly in the potential of the individuals served by DVR and remain committed in supporting workforce development in our community, especially in the graphics, marketing, events, public relations field. However, for partnerships like ours to be successful, there must be greater flexibility in training duration, industry-informed program design, stronger collaboration between service providers and employers, and a focus on long-term success rather than short-term placement goals. Our hope is that this testimony contributes to strengthening the program and improving outcomes for the individuals that DVR serves. Sizuz Maasi for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Leon Guerrero.
Thank you.
Ma'am, you're recognized. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, good afternoon. Hafaday, my name is Catherine Duenas, and I am a single mom. I'm a single mom for my 20-year-old son, and his name is Elijah. He's on the autism spectrum, and he's high functioning. I actually want to go ahead and just share that this is an A-B conversation, but I would like for it to be an A, B, and C conversation because speaking on a parent's point of view, we want to share, and it comes way deep down inside. So thank you so much, DVR and DISIT, for being here, and I will go ahead and share. According to the DVR handbook, the agency's primary goal is to help individuals with disabilities
achieve employment and independence through quality services. And that is according to the pamphlet. We began, my son and I, Elijah, we began the DVR application process in 2022. He was a junior at that time with excitement and high hopes. As a parent, I was encouraged to know there was a program available for my son to support him and to prepare him for graduation. We wanted to make sure he had the right support in place as he transitioned out of high school and into the next stage of his life. However, the process ended with no meaningful progress through DVR services. As part of the application, and I have my son's application here, it's 8 pages, my son shared that he wanted to work, build positive relationships, earn income, continue learning, and become independent, like all of us. These are simple and very meaningful goals. After the initial interview, there was limited follow-through and no clear progression towards services or an employment plan for my son. There was no support provided in areas such as job placement, training, transportation, or education, higher education, vocational, despite these being outlined in black and white as available services. At one point, I was asked, and I have the letter here too, I was asked to sign by my son's VR to file an extension. However, when I looked at the extension letter, the eligibility determination extension form, I have it here. It indicates my child is the one to go ahead and request this extension. However, the staff is the one to go ahead and the staff was the one who contacted me to go ahead and file the extension. So this form here that I have is actually, I've written over it and I signed it, however, with factual information. That is not, it is not our request to do that. And I don't know why, what the negligence is for. It wasn't shared with me. As a parent, this is where the disconnect truly stands out. The program is meant to support individuals with families, yet our experiences felt unclear. My son and I, our experiences felt unclear and incomplete. The purpose of the program as written feels distant from what is actually experienced. My son has made progress as a 20-year-old going into 21 with Special Olympics. We're involved in Special Olympics. We are also involved in the autism community actively. He is an employee of ICANN Resources. And he's a bowler. He loves bowling, but it is not as a result of DVR's support. Instead, these opportunities came through outside efforts, through me as his parent, seeking employment and support independently. I am asking, as a result of my testimony, meaningful accountability, clear and consistent follow-through, and a system that delivers what is promised. This includes timely communication, accurate and transparent documentation, and real access to the services outlined in the handbook. So individuals, so our children, so our people can move forward without unnecessary delays. And these are not additional requests. I just want to share with you, my child did not sign up to be on the autism spectrum. So this is something that is not, this is a right for him to be able to be a productive citizen. These are expectations that are already established in the program itself for him that has not been rendered. Families should not have to navigate around the system to receive what is already promised. The responsibility to ensure these services are delivered as intended rests within this body here, right here. Families come into this process, the DVR process, the DSID process, with hope. And that hope should be met with action. And Sizos Maasi for your time. And thank you so much for being here. Yes.
Thank you, Ms.
Thanks for giving
Catherine,
that.
for your testimony. I guess the good thing about today is the triad that you're looking at is all present here, the legislature, the agency, and of course, you guys. So thank you for your testimony, and moving forward, I guess we'll coordinate your concerns. Mr. Frank, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of this committee, you know, quite frankly, well, first off, my name is Frank Florg, and I'm the president CEO of Special Olympics Guam. As you know, we're a big advocate for persons with disabilities throughout the island, and we probably have one of the more successful programs in Southeast Asia. That's something we tout and we're proud of. I also sit on the advisory committee that oversees 32 nations in the Indo-Pacific area, and I'm one of 7 members. So they always look at our programs and they always ask, how can we replicate it? And we give them best, best practices, if you will. The one thing they all mention is that, how are you able to get parents, family members involved as they are in your program? And that's simple. Be honest with them, look out for their child, and do what you say you're going to do, and advocate for them. The only reason why I'm here today is I probably received about 15, 20 phone calls last night. Now, earlier in one of their slides, one of their success stories they outlined is that working with Special Olympics was one of their success stories. If that was really a success story, why wasn't I notified public hearing was happening today? I learned it through parents that had called me up. How can you say you're with the program and you're partners with the program when you're not? Not giving that person the courtesy to call me and say, look, there's a public hearing, would you come and support us, or maybe bring up some of the issues? That was never rendered. Absolutely never rendered. It was the parents that called me up. I even had to shift my schedules around today. I was hoping I could go on before 3 o'clock because I had a 3:30 meeting with about 20 coaches and 5 game officials as we start softball this weekend. I had to call them up and say, look, I'll meet you about 7:30, 8 o'clock tonight, because I think it's important that I be here. I think one of the biggest problems I have seen, well, first, let me begin by telling you that how Special Olympics got involved with DVR. I've got to give all that credit to Stacy Flores. She had called me up early part of last year, and we've worked together when she was at the district court on programs with Special Olympics. And she goes, Frank, I'm now with DSID. We need help. And I said, well, what help do you need? We need to engage with parents. Pre-ETs, which they brag about. I think at the time they only had 11 people signed up, 11 parents, because parents don't want to deal with them. And I said, look, let's set up a meeting. We'll come in, we'll meet with you guys. So I met with Mrs. Perez. I met her, a couple of other people on the table. And I told them we work closely with a company that's affiliated with Special Olympics Guam that provides training for people with disabilities. And the only reason why we do that is because parents are coming to us, asking us, because they refuse to go to DVR or DSID. They weren't getting the results, as Catherine had mentioned earlier. So we started this little project. We started connecting our adults, we get children in at 8 years old, we watch them go through middle school, elementary, middle school, high school, and at high school, we start getting concerned about them becoming independent, productive citizens of our community. That's part of our mission statement. So I reached out to ICANN, PARI, and these are Source One companies that hire persons with disabilities. So when we know a graduate is graduating, we actually let them know, hey, these guys are graduating, can they go apply with you guys? And they always take them in. Kathy had came to me about her son, and I reached out to a sponsor of ours in the hotel industry that was willing to train her son on his money, on his dime, to become a front desk person. Unfortunately, that was not what Elijah wanted to do. So that we still have open. Anyway, she called up and she says, Frank, can we please meet with you? I went and I met with them, and I told them about this particular company we're partners with that provides training. And they said they had an issue. They wanted us to recruit parents in 3 weeks, and they needed 90 parents. So they tout this afternoon about how they've got 180 clients from 2025. Well, know that 90 of them were actually brought in by this particular company. And what's so disappointing is that there was no follow-through. We got them registered. They went through one section. A year later, they haven't gone through any of the other sections that we had said would be offered to their kids. I think if they came to me today and asked me to reach out for them, I'd tell them no. Because now these parents are kind of upset at me. Because I told them, guys, you got to give them a chance. These guys, we met with them, they want to work. Nothing's happened. I've met with Joe Cameron. I've met with Michelle. The only person I can actually talk to with some sense is Stacy. I met with Raul, and I get all these promises that we're going to do this. It doesn't happen. And I relay this back on to the parents who trust me. You know, and we're not talking about 20 or 30. We're talking about 400 or 500 families that have children that are grown in this area. I would never recommend DVR. What bothered me today in the opening statement was one of the two leaders had mentioned DISIT and DVR's responsibility is to provide service. It's not DVR's responsibility or DISIT. It's their mandate. And it's management's responsibility to make sure that mandate is covered. And seeing through, I run Special Olympics. We have a mandate. If I can't, it's my responsibility to make sure that mandate is reached. And I do it for free. They get paid. Your heart's got to be in the right place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Appreciate your testimony. They're still here, so we can actually ask questions relating to your testimony later. Mr. Tim, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you. Am I on? Oh, okay, there you go. Okay. Thank you. I wasn't going to actually offer oral testimony, but the senator asked me to go ahead and read it into the record. My testimony was actually published in the Pacific Island Times on April 1st. And so I am going to read it, but I've cut out some sections because it's too long, and then I have a few comments on what's transpired since I've been here. So if you'll forgive me, I'm just going to read the article. Dad, when am I going to get my new job? I need my job, Dad. I have to get my own house. Those are words I've been hearing nearly every morning and sometimes several times a day for more than 2 years. William, my now 21-year-old son who lives with autism and ADHD, has been excited about getting, quote, my own job and making my future, his words, since August 2023, when I filed an application with the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. I wasn't familiar with DVR or its parent department, DISID, so I just did everything that I was told to do. Months went by, and it was always the counselor was waiting for this or waiting for that. After 1 year of no action, I used my own connections to set up what DVR calls job exposure at a grocery store. Even after I set up the connection for the counselor, still many weeks went by. In fact, it was many months went by with no action. I finally met with the store personnel myself, and William was able to get started as a bagger in November of 2024. Assisted by a job coach supplied by DVR, William worked at the store until the end of February 2025, when his job exposure was terminated by the counselor. Aside from a couple calls from the job coach regarding challenges with William, I was under the impression that after 4 months, William had learned how to bag groceries. However, at a follow-up meeting with the counselor and the job coach, I was effectively advised that William was not fit for employment and was in need of occupational therapy. I told the counselor that it would have been helpful for him to advise me of any issues with William's progress during those 4 months so I could help address them. My concern was brushed off, and I was told that further training for William would be explored. 5 months later, and after a pile of emails, 5 months later, after a pile of emails, most of which went unanswered, I decided to go to the top and requested a meeting with DISID Director Michelle Perez. I met with Ms. Perez and DVR Director Joseph Cameron on July 31st, 2025. I presented the pile of emails and expressed my disgust at the absolute negligence by DVR and the wasting of 2 precious years of my son's life. I know that other parents here can relate to the wasting of precious years of your child's life. I demanded a new counselor for William, and one was assigned. However, the new counselor required that William first be assessed by an occupational therapist. It took another 2 months to secure the appointment. William was assessed and determined to be, quote, capable of learning how to perform a job, something I already knew, but we had to jump through that hoop. At the appointment, the occupational therapist noted that she knew of another DVR client who had received vocational training at a local theater. I forwarded the information to William's counselor, who then set up a meeting with the theater. In December 2025, William, the counselor, and I met with the theater personnel and toured the facility. The counselor asked William if he would like to work there. William responded positively. It was clear that he was very excited, as evidenced by his constant inquiries in the days that followed about when he would start his new job. The vocational training was to begin mid-January. Mid-January came and went. Remember, we started this in 2023. We're now in 2025. Toward the end of January, the counselor advised me that the theater was not willing to accommodate William. Once again, I was told that I would be informed, quote, of any updates as they become available. Since this was what I had been hearing since August of 2023, we'll call you, don't call us, essentially, I decided not to wait for any updates and pressed for more information. I urged the counselor to provide William with other options from other employers. I knew there were no other options because in an earlier meeting with the counselor and Mr. Cameron, I'd point blank asked which employers they were working with to place their clients. Functionally, the answer was none, which is why I had to find and arrange my son's first job experience at the grocery store. So I was surprised to hear today from Mr. Cameron that there are 15 employers, when I was told none. I'd like to know who those 15 are. Maybe Mr. Cameron can send me that by Monday, the names of the employers. After expressing my disappointment to William's counselor, I was told the real reason the theater had declined to accommodate William. The theater was, quote, still waiting to receive payment for a current DVR client. In other words, despite millions of federal funds, DVR hadn't paid its bill for just one client. The information reminded me of an April 2025 story in the Pacific Island Times titled, "We are given more money than we need. Guam forfeits $1.5 million in DVR funds in 2024. According to DIS's 2024 report, DVR received $3,115,000 in federal funds to assist 262 participants. How many of them received vocational training? I don't know. I'll insert here, though, that when I was hearing that the reason they had to return the funds is because they couldn't get the matching funds, that does not jibe with Mr. Cameron's actual words. We are given more money than we need. In April, as with every April, we see autism awareness banners, the Marine Corps Drive waves, government proclamations, and all the usual lip service about our compassion for people living with disabilities. Meanwhile, like many other parents, I wake up each day with a child who is desperately in need of the services our government and its agencies claim to provide. It is not only tragic, it is government of abuse of our disabled children. It is government abuse of our disabled children. As of this writing, which was April 1st, Williams' counselor has secured an opportunity for vocational training with the local business. William is doing janitorial work and he has a job coach he seems to like. He is very proud of himself and excited about making, quote, real money, as he calls it. I appreciate his counselor's efforts. I just regret, for William's sake, that it has taken 3 years. The end. So, but the two things that I brought up in the context of that is, Mr. Cameron, the question up here was, how many private sector employers has DVR enlisted for training of clients? Mr. Cameron says there's 15. My question is, who are they? Because I wasn't given any names of any employers. I had to go find them myself. Now, the current counselor, actually, when he got William the job at the bowling alley, I asked her how she did it. She says, oh, I called them. Exactly. Outreach. Call them. I mean, that's what you're getting paid for, so I appreciate that. And the other thing I brought up was about the funds and matching funds. Are these matching funds, or do we have more money than we need, as Mr. Cameron says? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tim, for your testimony. We have received more testimonies here. Earlier, Senator Montanoni read one from Jenny Bersinas. Yeah. And later on, you wanted to point out about another testimony, correct? But I'm not sure if you guys are interested to hear some. We can probably brush through some of the other testimonies here. I think it's important. I'm going to read quickly a testimony from Mr. David Lebowski, and I'm going to be in 1.5 mode, okay? I'll try to make it fast so we can actually read the other ones. This is from Mr. Lebowski, Honorable Chairperson Calvo, and members of the committee and senators. Thank you for the opportunity to provide written testimony on the performance of the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. My perspective is grounded in direct professional experience. I was the first and only nationally certified rehabilitation counselor on Guam. I completed certified advanced graduate studies in rehabilitation from Boston University. I served as the Director of Rehabilitation Services at Goodwill Industries of Guam. I was the first Director of Gumamami. I serve as a Veterans Chapter 31 Rehabilitation Counselor on Guam. I work for the Client Assistance Program in Hawaii and regularly consulted with the local program while employed at Goodwill to advocate for people with disabilities. My doctoral research examined burnout amongst rehabilitation counselors. I understand what the functioning rehabilitation system looks like, and I recognize immediately when a system has collapsed. The agenda for this hearing asks basic questions about partnerships, client interviews, referrals, staffing, and federal funds. These questions expose a deeper truth.
Guam DVR is among the lowest performing vocational rehabilitation programs per capita in the United States and its territories. No other jurisdiction serves fewer clients per capita, produces fewer employment outcomes per capita, generates lower earnings per capita, or has returned a larger share of federal funds relative to its size. To understand the scale of this failure, it is important to compare Guam today to the first year that reliable standardized DVR data existed under federal law. In 2016, the first year WIOA performance indicators were collected. Guam served significantly more clients per capita and produced more employment outcomes per capita than it does today. Median quarterly earnings of DVR clients were also substantially higher in 2016 than they are now. In 2016, Guam used nearly all of its federal vocational rehabilitation funds. Recently, Guam returned approximately $1.5 million, close to half of its allocation. This is one of the largest shares returned by any jurisdiction in the country. The decline from 2016 to today is not a minor drop, it is a collapse. This collapse did not happen in a vacuum. For years, political appointments have been treated as a priority, while services for persons with disability have been treated as optional. Leadership positions have been filled based on political alignment rather than professional competence. It is my opinion that apathy at the very top has been a major driver of the retreat in providing services to persons with disabilities. In my opinion, many senators remember this population only when cameras are present at events such as the Special Olympics. But the real measure of commitment is not photo opportunities. It is programs, it is services, it is outcomes, and those have been missing for years. According to the Pacific Island Times, March 2024, Guam returned approximately 45% of its federal vocational rehabilitation funds in 2024, one of the largest shares among any jurisdiction in the country. This occurred even as DVR Director Joseph Cameron publicly stated we were given more than we needed. Despite Guam positioning or posting the lowest performance statistics in the nation and falling far below its own past performance, this apathy at the top has enabled DVR and service providers to operate without urgency, without accountability, and without meaningful oversight. That is why we are here today. This hearing is happening not because the system is working, but because the system has been allowed to deteriorate in plain sight. When leadership stops caring, the system stops functioning. When leaders do not understand the federal law they are responsible for implementing, the program collapses around them. When leaders do not demand accountability, accountability disappears. When leaders do not insist on timely services, families wait for months. When leaders do not value communication access, deaf and hard of hearing residents are denied basic civil rights. When leaders do not prioritize client outcomes, outcomes fall to the bottom of the nation. And when leaders do not believe in the mission of vocational rehabilitation, $1.5 million in federal funds is returned while families are begging for help. These are not administrative oversights, they are leadership failures. What makes this decline even more unacceptable is that Guam once had stronger, more engaged, more functional services than it has today. 30 years ago, yes, 30, DVR in the Guam Department of Education operated a school-to-work program that connected students with disabilities to real employment pathways. Functioning on-the-job training program were set up with employers who understood the value of inclusive hiring. Technology was beginning to be used to support communications and access. Advocates for persons with disabilities were active and present in program development. Sheltered employment options existed for individuals who needed structured environments, and Guam had leadership that cared about the disability community, including individuals such as Albert San Augustine, RIP, whose commitment to service is still remembered by many. The system was not perfect, but it was engaged, it was active, and it was connected to the community I served. Today, the system has retreated. The comparisons to national and territorial performance show that Guam is not struggling. Guam is failing. Guam is last in the nation per capita in every category that defines a functioning vocational rehabilitation program. Guam serves fewer clients. Guam produces fewer job placements. Guam generates lower earnings. Guam returns more federal funds. Guam has allowed political appointments to take precedence over professional leadership, and the disability community has been left to navigate barriers alone. The disability community is not asking for special treatment. They are asking for competence. They're asking for a program that uses the funds it receives. They are asking for leadership that understands that disability issuance are employment issues, education issues, healthcare issues, and civil rights issues. The questions raised in this hearing are overdue. The failures that prompted them are unacceptable. Thank you for the opportunity to provide written testimony. Respectfully submitted, Mr. David Lebowski, ED. Thank you, Mr. David, for submitting your testimony. I would like to ask assistance from Vice Speaker to please read the other testimony, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Francisco Camacho.
Huh? Oh, the mom's here?
Huh?
Someone's here. Oh, which one? Is that the one? Is her? Okay.
Tess? Oh, I'm sorry, my first time.
Good afternoon, ma'am. You're
Good
recognized.
afternoon.
Please state your name, your full name in the record, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francis Camacho, and I'm speaking on behalf of my husband, Rodney Camacho, who is currently a dialysis patient, and he has battling vascular disease for over a year and a half prior to undergoing a double amputation of both legs. Since losing both of his legs, his daily life is completely changed. He cannot bath, dress, or move from bed to chair without assistance. This has placed significant physical and emotional strain on our family since his first amputation. The first amputation took place in Metropolitan Methodist Hospital in San Antonio, Texas, and his second amputation was performed here at GRMC by Dr. Sabio. We have been visiting Agility in Agania, thinking they would approve him for the prosthetic legs now that he's gotten better and there's no pain, and he's capable of transferring and using the restroom on his own, so that's already showing that he's already ready for the prosthetic. So the surgeon doctor said he doesn't need to see him anymore, Dr. Sabier, because he's getting better. Nurses, home nurses are cutting down because he's getting better, and therapy. So we had been visiting Agility and Agani thinking they would approve him for the prosthetic legs, but they informed us that they do not accept Medicare. Right now his insurance is Medicare and Take Care. So we pay Take Care off pocket, and because I used to work for the United Club and I had to resign just recently to care for him. So they stated they only accept Medicaid and veterans. We tried to apply for Medicaid and that wasn't working out. So we got denied 3 times. So because they do not accept Medicare, the estimated cost of $22,000 for prosthetic legs. When they try to apply for Medicaid, other programs such as GURA for home rehabilitation, that's another one. So when he first got amputated the first time from Texas, came home and we applied from, DISIT had guided us, and we applied for the rehabilitation for, we own a home in Chico, and we got denied also for that, based on his income. This is just his income alone. He's only 57 years old. He's not retired yet, but he served a lot of years of working since he was 17, and 28 years of Hawaiian Rock. So now that he's ill and disabled, there's no programs out here that will be eligible. And now they're denying Medicare, you know, so we have to go off island, and we have referral from Dr. Rachel from his prosthetic vascular disease doctor in Texas. So that's the only way we can do it. We have to send him off island and with the prosthetic legs, to go through this program in Texas, and they're setting it up already, and they want him to go through therapy. It's going to take 3 to 6 months. I'm not sure, depends on his ability. And so anyway, so $22,000 for prosthetic legs. We then tried to apply for Medicaid and other programs such as GURA rehabilitation to assist with wheelchair accessible, but we were denied. As a result, we had to take matters into our own hands and complete projects around the house, such as building ramps, which I did it myself. So making other accessibility modifications to accommodate my husband's needs. The programs he is eligible for are DISIT and GSAD programs. DISIT provides some financial assistance, but it is still a struggle since our income is limited. So DISIT had, they were really very helpful in the beginning, but maybe because of funds, lack of funds, so they cut 36 hours of my pay. GSAD assisted by providing equipment to help with getting him in and out the car. However, it was only available for a limited time, which is a lifter. Due to the weight of the equipment, it was difficult for me to manage on my own. We eventually had to return it. As a result, I am now lifting him in and out the vehicle myself, which I have a 4Runner, and it's pretty high for him, but he helps me. He lifts himself up, and I just, push him into the car. So I tried to find another solution for that problem. So I went to Medcare or this pharmacist that said that they will modify your car carrying the wheelchair into the car, but they said they don't accept Medicare. That's another problem. He receives referral from the vascular Dr. Rachel in San Antonio, Texas, in Solution TARPS, that's the name of the clinic, to receive prosthetic legs that would include physical therapy. He had to be referred to an off-island clinic because they accepted insurance Medicare. We have been referred to receive prosthetic legs to help him regain his independence and walk again. Prosthetic legs are not just equipment. They are essential for his ability to walk, return to a daily routine, and reduce his dependence on myself and others. Due to the high cost of prosthetic legs here in Guam, we're unable to afford them given our current financial situation. This is why we had to seek care of island at facilities that will accept his insurance and cover his medical needs. We're asking the committee for assistance in providing funding, approving travel authorization, arranging medical support so he can travel to San Antonio, Texas, for his prosthetic fitting. This is not just a medical procedure. It is a difference between being confined to a bed or a chair and being able to live a productive life. I appreciate your time and consideration in hearing our requests. We hope you will consider my husband's urgent need for mobility. We look forward to hearing from the committee soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Camacho. At this point in time, I'd like to open the floor to my colleagues for questioning. I'd like to ask Vice Speaker Ada. Start. Okay. Senator Therese Serlai.
I want to thank you all for your testimony. It's very good that we can hear from you directly and hear all your struggles and what we still need to address here. I don't know, Madam Chair, if we could ask Dissett some questions at this time, or?
Yes, Senator, if you do have questions, Dissid's still here. DVR also has their representation, and they can actually join the panel.
Yeah, I just want to follow up. So in the case, for example, of Mr. Camacho, it says Dissid provides some financial assistance, but income limits. Is there any other program they might avail of?
I believe the program that Mrs. Camacho is talking about is our in-home care program that we provide under support services. And that's the income I believe she is referring to.
All right. What about prosthetics?
We do not provide funding for prosthetics.
There's no program at Dissid for that?
No.
All right. What about, according to Mr. Rohr's testimony, no, according to both of them, he and Mr. Lebowski, and the Pacific Islands Times article itself, well, Mr. Lebowski says Guam is posting the lowest performance statistics in the nation and falling far below its own past performance. We don't have that in front of us. We have only, I see this is a 2022 report, and so it says how much was taken away. It doesn't give any numbers regarding services, and it doesn't give the 2024 numbers either that were cited in that article.
Senator, I'm not quite sure what information you have in front of you. I'm not privy to that unless Mr. Cameron provided that to the chairperson, but I'm not privy to that information.
Yeah, this is from Mr. Cameron. It's a RSA update. This is just what are the amounts relinquished from every state or territory? Okay. So we can see that. But what about this part about we are posting the lowest performance statistics in the nation?
I don't think that's accurate. If it is, I have not been informed of that, but there's no data proving that, at least from what I'm being provided.
What does the data show? What is the data on performance statistics on this, I guess on this grant?
Mr. Lebowski's comparing us to the rest of the state programs, and we have no idea if that information is accurate, because we don't receive a report like that compares us and compares those rates. So I don't know if those are accurate.
All right. Why don't we just say then, with the money that you did receive, how many people could that serve if we had fully used it? And how many are we serving?
Again, the ones that we are serving, I mean,
15, right?
We have enough money to serve the ones that we are serving.
Is that 15?
No, that
318?
315, I believe, in 2025.
Yes.
And then this year, on top of that, the 315, we got an additional 68 individuals that we're serving.
All right. And the money that we returned might have covered how many more? We returned, it says in 2024, 1.5 million. Is that correct? Because we don't have anything in front of us that shows that. 1.5 million in 2024, was that the amount returned? I got this from the Pacific Island Times.
1.5, yes.
Okay, so how many more people could that have served? Double? What was your total amount?
Potentially, if clients are so willing to avail themselves to DVR, again,
we could have doubled from 315 to 600 and.
If that amount of applicants had come in through the doors, yes.
And if we were to increase our capacity to provide those
Right.
services to that number of that increase.
Okay. And then, what about this, several of them talked about this, the training restrictions. Like if we can't train them, they're not gonna be able to be successful. And the training is like limited by time. Can we expand that? What they say DVR has been non-negotiable on that, very not flexible, not able to meet the training needs or the training time period. Are we able to do that?
Well, I think the training, a lot of the training that our clients would receive is going to be at the employer's sites.
Right.
Some of it may be prior to them going into the sites. That's true, because we have to assess their competencies and that sort of thing. But again, we are building our capacities to meet those training needs.
All right. Maybe just can you clarify? You cover a person going to be employed for 3 months, 90 days. Is that what that 90-day restriction is? You cover them for 90 days and supposedly that's training. And if they're not, and then that's it, then they're cut off. Is that what's going on?
No, Senator. There are some situations where we've had training, companies that train individuals where DVR funds that. And then throughout the time frame of being trained, once the individual is actually trained, and the ideal placement is to be trained and at that employer and then be employed by that employer.
Yes.
We've come to challenges where the employer gets all this is paid to train this individual, and when the training is completed, they don't pick up the individual.
All right. But okay, I can see that. But you do have flexibility in continuing a person beyond 90 days in training?
I would think it's all individualized based on the individual need and the collaboration between the counselor and the consumer, as well as the employer or the trainer. I can't speak directly to certain specific situations that were brought up today, which I definitely will get more clarity on. But from our understanding, that is the process that the counselor really is the gatekeeper of how this program should be collaborated with the consumer.
Okay, counselor's a gatekeeper, and we're hearing some testimony about like lack of follow-up, lack of follow-through. What have you done about that?
Short from getting into personnel issues that are being addressed in our agency now, it's been addressed several times over.
So what would you say to
and holding them accountable, if you will,
potential customers that if they came in, they would get a very prompt response. They would be determined eligible or not. They would be able to be matched up with a training program and very clear follow through with that?
That is the expectation that we've directed, and we've also directed rapid engagement because of such situation as this and the cases with Mr. Rohr and with some other
all right.
cases that have come to our attention.
Okay, Mr. Rohr, you talked at the end of your testimony positively about the counselor. Is that a DVR counselor or?
Sorry, yes. So this was the second counselor because I wanted a new one after 2 years of going nowhere. And however, I did kind of have to threaten to make it happen because it was basically, don't call us, we'll call you after the theater thing fell through. And I just wasn't going to settle for it. So I'm not opposed to being actively engaged and advocating for my son, but I shouldn't have had to go through 3 years of hell just to get him a janitorial job for 90 days.
Yes, and
So-
we've got, I agree. And
Yeah.
if you have employers willing to help, I think they should be fully availed their willingness, and training programs possibly available. What about that non-payment of the theater that was cited?
That was brought to my attention, and once it actually was brought to my attention by Mr. Rohr.
How could that happen, though? If you know who your employers are, how could we not pay them?
Well, it could be through invoicing issues. It could be through, and that's what I tried. That's the minute he told me about it, I went and I tried to figure out what was going on, and I asked those hard questions. So it ended up being paid, but it was still not. It was not appropriate. It was not. There's no justification for it, really, at the fact that they didn't pay on time. And that's what we ended up having to go to the employer, rectify that, continue to try and build that relationship. And it was, we'll take the hit. It was unfortunate that it was the onus was on us, and we didn't do the right thing, and we corrected that.
Does it happen often, or was that an isolated incident?
It's isolated. It doesn't happen as often now, comparable to when I first came on board and I started hearing different things. So that I am very direct with fiscal, that when you get an invoice, it needs to be paid because services have been rendered. And if we don't, it affects the process for others to avail to the service.
Right.
Yes.
And the persons involved especially. All right, Situs Masi, my time is up, but Situs Masi to all of you, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Terlahi. At this point, I'd like to recognize Senator Sabrina Salas Matanoni.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going through